I would have to say my interest in sports. Growing up, always playing basketball, volleyball. My senior year before going to college, I hurt my shoulder and needed PT. That kind of like showed me the aspects of like how physical therapy can impact an athlete, and I was very intrigued in that. So that was my center of focus going into college, and as I continued through college, my love for PT continued to grow.
I decided to do physical therapy because sometime around high school I realized that I really loved anatomy. I loved to learn about the human body. I loved anything to do with movement. And then in early undergrad, when I decided to do physical therapy, I became really obsessed with yoga and exercise and movement. And I knew that I wanted to help others no matter what I was going to do as my profession. So I figured I could marry my love for movement and the body with helping others, and that turned into physical therapy.
I definitely bounced around different medical professions as majors before I decided on PT, but I think I ended on PT last because in other medical professions, I feel like you see patients for a very short period of time and then you never see that patient again. And although you might make an impact in their life, you don't see it and you don't get to be a part of that process as intimately as with PT. Whereas like as a physical therapist, I'll be able to see them more than once a week for multiple weeks at a time, and I get to be more than just a therapist. I get to be someone who sees them physically, mentally, and emotionally grow and improve throughout their injuries. And that was really important to me as I got into internships and things like that, where I got to see that impact that I would have in people's lives and deeper than just medicine and healing.
I felt called to go into PT. I loved my A&P class, absolutely. When I first took that class and learned about the muscles and the bones and all that, it was really fascinating to me, and I found it easy for me to be interested in studying that type of science, because usually I wasn't interested in science classes. But this one was a lot of fun. I've actually been through PT myself when I injured my knees playing soccer, and I just really experienced firsthand the healing benefits of exercise. I've been an athlete throughout junior high school. I love playing volleyball, badminton. I like to go outdoor and indoor climbing. And I realized that I wanted to be of help in my community, that I would spend a lot of time, because I plan to be active for a long time, even after school. And if I decided that if I wanted to help in those communities, I should choose a profession that would be able to help in situations such as that.
I chose physical therapy because I took some placement tests in high school, and it said that physical therapy would suit my interests the best, of working with people and doing things that involved physical activity, while also pertaining to like the medical field.
Okay, so I chose physical therapy because growing up I always wanted to do something to help people, preferably in the medical field, something like that, but I didn't want to be a doctor and have to go through like 8 years of schooling plus residency, plus I'm also not a big fan of blood. So when I found out about PT, I was in high school and I actually had to go and get physical therapy done for my knees because I had like pain while running and things like that. So I had two amazing physical therapists in Loma Linda, Jeremy and Ron, shout out to you guys. So they were super cool, and I just loved how they were able to get me to where I am today, to run without pain. And just the environment that they were working in, I really loved it. So yeah, I wanted to do that too.
So what made me decide on physical therapy was the versatility of the career field. There's a variety of different things that you can do, from working in the hospital, from working with a sports team, to working in an outpatient clinic, or even just being an entrepreneur and creating your own business. So it's just very versatile, a lot of different options to pursue, all while leaving a lasting impact on the patients that you work with. So that's what I love about it. You're in the front lines of patient interaction, being able to hear people's stories and then help them at the same time, and really gearing for them to be independent and move to the best of their ability, and reducing pain if that's what they're seeing you for.
So I'm actually also going to be reading answers from another PT student. Her name is Connie, and unfortunately she was not able to get me a video, but she did send me her answers to these questions typed out. So why did Connie decide on PT? My journey to PT is a little different than most, I would say. I wanted to be an athletic trainer and a physical therapist. I am currently a board-certified athletic trainer. My original background started in sports and athletes. I decided on PT as my secondary option in addition to my athletic training background, because I wanted to expand on the population I could work with. When I was a freshman in high school, I was determined to get into PT school. Because my younger sister had a horrible rehabilitation process from her injury with the physical therapist that was taking care of her, I was mad and frustrated of how little whole person care she got as a young teen. In a strange sense, I got into PT out of frustration for the physical therapist that my sister had, and wanted to change how individuals should be treated during their rehab process, especially during that adolescent age.
Honestly, I didn't really go into PT school with any expectations. I would love to say that it's everything that I imagined, but I really didn't know what to expect. But what I can say is it is everything that I could have wanted, and the way Loma Linda directs PT and incorporates the teaching to the students is something I greatly appreciate and I'm very happy with as well.
I think it is what I expected it to be. It's challenging and requires a lot of work and dedication and time. I think the one thing that surprised me most is that every single class is so interesting. In undergrad, you're kind of required to take all these various classes for your degree. And sometimes you may not love all of them, you just have to get through it. In PT school, almost every class is so cool and so interesting because it's geared towards what you're gonna do later in life.
In some ways, yeah. Being that I go to Loma Linda now, definitely different in a lot of ways. For example, with the reputation that Loma Linda has in Southern California, I did not expect people to be as personable and down to earth as they are. I love all of my professors and my classmates. My cohort is awesome. We're all very family oriented to the where we're brothers and sisters. We're more than just classmates, and it's what I hoped for, but not necessarily what I thought would happen. I thought with how smart everyone is and the work we put in to get there, that it would be a lot more competitive and a lot more cutthroat, and it's not. We're so helpful and uplifting all the time, and it makes going through the rigor and the tough times that much easier and more efficient.
Yeah, PT school is to some degree very close to what I expected. I have a number of friends who have gone through the program and who I've asked about it and who have told me all about the program, so I knew that it was definitely going to be one of the if not the toughest academic journey that I would embark on. The first class we took, Gross Anatomy, seemed very daunting when I heard about it. It was basically 4 days a week, 8 hours a day, and then you take your exam and your practical every Friday. So that's the first 7 weeks of the summer, and it was really daunting to think about having to do that. But the amount of resources that they gave you during that time in Gross Anatomy, it like catered exactly to my study style, and I couldn't believe the amount of support that we got from our professors, from our TAs for that class. And continuing on after that course, I found the same exact support through my classes and from my professors that really just showed how much they want to support the students to be successful in this program.
I guess I wasn't really expecting to, I didn't realize how many different modalities there were to work with, like ultrasound and electrical stimulation. I knew about those already, but I didn't know about some of the other ones like HVPC and stuff like that. So it was really interesting to learn about those, and that's actually regularly integrated into physical therapy and not just like stretching and exercises and stuff like that.
Physical therapy school, I expected it to be hard, and it is hard. But I didn't expect to have classes like histology and pathology. I guess it like makes sense because we have to know how like the inside of the body works, but it was just like so much detail for me that I was like, why are we learning this? But So I guess that's the one thing I didn't expect in PT school, was those type of classes.
PT school is somewhat what I expected, although there are still differences and new things I learned on the daily. My original understanding of PT in general was orthopedics, since that's the main population they work with, and neurological patients. But through school, I have learned that they work in many different fields. Yes, I did expect PT school to be challenging and time-consuming.
PT school is what I expected for the most part. It's very challenging. You're learning a large amount of information in a short period of time. But it's grad school, so you can't expect anything less. You're in a doctorate program, so it's expected to have a high level of rigor. But what's different about it, I would say the camaraderie that you have with your classmates and learning together. So that's been really great.
Some of the biggest challenges that I've faced in school are definitely when I first started the program with time management. I thought I never really had to struggle with something like that before PT school, but definitely knowing how much you have to study for courses, getting down material, practicing your hands-on skill in lab. It's definitely something you have to manage, as well as like your social life or your fitness. There's just a lot of and then if you have a significant other, those all things, they all play into effect. So being able to balance all of those and then maintaining your grades is probably the biggest challenge.
Biggest challenges in school. I think maybe burnout. Some days could be pretty long, and you're, in class, in lecture, or working in lab for most of your day, and then by the end of the day you have to go home and study for the next day or for the next test or next quiz. So I think making time for yourself in between everything going on, just to kind of reset everything and quiet your mind, because it is a lot getting thrown at you every day. But so worth it.
Definitely time management. What I've learned throughout my first year is that it's not that you don't have enough time to do everything, as hectic as it may be. It's the adjustment of your everyday life that has to change, and that's probably the hardest part. You have to change how much time you have to do everything else, because school has to come first, obviously, but school demands a lot more of your time than it has in undergrad or other levels of school. But at the same time, they arrange your schedule to where you have time to study for everything, you have time to get everything done. It's just, do you have the mental fortitude to compartmentalize enough to make time for everything? And I think that's the biggest adjustment, because you're used to going to the gym every day, you're used to hanging out with your friends and your family all the time, and you can still do those things are possible, but it's like, can you separate them and make the time segments to where it all fits, and you can still keep your grades and learn the things in a way that you'll retain it and not just learn it for an exam.
So probably some of the big challenges that we face is time management, and really knowing how to manage your schedule and how to balance your social activities and your academics. I know that some people feel that like competition is a big thing in grad school, but I don't feel that with my cohort and with my fellow first year classmates. I feel like our class is really supportive of each other, and trying to do everything that they can to be able to just encourage each other to continue on with the program and offer help where it's needed. And I really appreciate that. So competition is not one of our biggest challenges, but definitely, of course, it is grad school, and we are earning a doctorate degree. So the classes are going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a walk in the park. And time management, I'd probably say, is probably one of the biggest challenges in school.
What are some of the biggest challenges in school?
One of the biggest challenges is just staying disciplined and on course for tests and stuff that come up. Not all of our classes have regular quizzes. Some of them are just like a midterm and a final, and some are only 3 tests for the whole quarter. So you really have to keep up to date, and you can't slack off and not be studying stuff for a while and then cram for like 2 or 3 days before. It just doesn't work very well, at least not for me. So that's probably one of the harder things I've had to learn since coming from undergrad to grad school. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced in school?
Biggest challenges are definitely studying. for these hard classes like histo and patho, because there's just so many little details in there, and in order to get everything in there you have to study ahead of time. And I'm so used to cramming the night before. Does not work in PT school. Don't cram. So yeah, that's definitely a challenge, is studying.
Some of the biggest challenges in school is memorizing and learning the material and trying to retain it for the long run. You learn a lot of stuff in a short period of time, but trying to retain that information and be able to apply it later is hard.
The biggest challenges in school is learning how to manage your time with learning a large amount of material, but then also balancing life as well, and just taking care of yourself. So it can be kind of challenging because I've never really learned this amount of material in such a short period of time, and efficiently, to where like you have to know it in the long run for the long term. It's been a process and learning how to do that, and yeah.
Okay, so how much of a social life you can have? I would like to say you can have as much as you feel like you can handle. By that I mean, I feel like you have to figure out your study style in the beginning of school. That's really important, and once you figure that out, you can kind of incorporate your social life and your fitness level and like all of that around it. Say if like you're someone who knows that they need a little bit more time to grasp material, then you might not find yourself having as much of a social life, or you might find yourself taking away time from other aspects of your life to make time for the social life. I feel like it's a big balance. The way I see it, my balance is grades. It's like one part of the triangle, one part is fitness, and one part is like social life, everything else, you know? So finding that balance between that is pretty crucial, and that determines how much of what you can have of what.
You know, this is something else that surprised me, because I was expecting to come into PT school and have no life at all, no social life outside of PT school. And don't get me wrong, I am really busy most days, studying most of my days, but I do think it's so important to make the time to do other things you love besides school, whether that be going on a hike or working out or seeing a friend, seeing family, at least every once in a while.
I mean, it's kind of what you make it. If anything, my social life consists a lot of hanging out with people in my cohort, and just getting that break from schoolwork and studying is really, really nice. And so like one of the things that we found was all joining together to make intramural teams for sports was like huge in socializing this past year, because it was like one night a week or 2 nights a week that we could all just come together and we see the same people, but it's seeing them in a new light and seeing them in a new environment and being able to just de-stress and take a deep breath and just kind of get away from the norm of studying all the time, but you still get that social aspect. Like you're still at school, you're still with the same people you see every day, but it's a completely different feel. And you get much closer to them in those ways too, as well as getting good time to relax and kind of refresh your mind for the next day.
So when balancing life in school, going back to what probably a lot of us are going to say about time management, you definitely can have a social life, especially in this first year. At the time that we're filming this, we haven't even started our spring quarter yet. So from summer, like where gross anatomy started, plus all the way until winter quarter, there's definitely time to have a social life. If you time manage well, there are some of us who won't have classes on Friday. So if there's a night you wanna, some of us have gone to the Redlands Market night, gone out to eat, or just like hanging out at each other's houses. We've definitely been able to do that, and I highly recommend taking a break at some point on the weekend, like just a time that you actually take a sincere and intentional break. Whether for those of you who are SDA and you understand Sabbath, or for those of you who aren't, and you just take like maybe your Saturday to take a break, and then you hit the ground running again on Sunday and during the week. There's definitely an opportunity to stay social, and an effort to be able to balance your life in school is definitely possible.
Balancing school and life is like all of it's school and there is no life. No, I'm just kidding, obviously. A lot of my classmates go snowboarding and stuff on the weekends. A lot of them do really fun stuff. I don't really have a very interesting life, so I just do school and then hang out with my girlfriend's family on the weekends. But we go to the beach and stuff, and so it's really nice. How is balancing life and school? How much of a social life do you have?
Balancing life and school is, I think it could be harder. I don't know. I don't really have that much of a social life outside of school. I hang out with my boyfriend a lot, and with my family. But other than that, I don't really have like places to go or things to do. So if something pops up and I'm free, I'm like, okay, let's go out bowling or something like that. So it's not like too hard to balance, but if you really want to like focus on social life, it's gonna be pretty hard. You have to focus on school and then a little bit of social.
It is definitely challenging because sometimes you have to prioritize what you're going to do per day, but then at the end of the day, get the studying done, the assignments done that need to be completed by that certain deadline, as well as figuring out how to eat well and figuring out small increments of time where you can exercise and get that daily activity, because while you're in school you are sitting a lot because you're listening to a lot of lectures, you're practicing a lot of skills. It's definitely challenging, but a planner has been my best friend. So
Balancing life and school isn't too bad, but the main thing is learning to manage and utilize your time wisely. It is not that we do not have enough time, but rather how we use our time is what usually comes and gets you. I do have a social life. On Fridays or Thursdays, I hang out with friends and significant others. On weekends that I decide not to work, I give myself a few hours to spend with others. At the end of the day, it is about balancing your time, and it is different for every individual. You can have a social life. Never neglect your own mental health and physical health.
Faculty are definitely very supportive and helpful. I would say I've never had an issue being able to reach out to one and talk to one if I've ever like not grasped a concept. I know I can easily go to a faculty member and they'll be able to help me with it, and they're very open-armed and they welcome that kind of interest where a student wants to learn, and they definitely do whatever it takes to make sure you understand and to make sure you're successful.
I think the faculty at Loma Linda are so supportive, and it's one thing I love. I think that you can approach any of them and speak of your concerns or worries or anything you have going on in life, and they will listen with open ears and open hearts and be able to, I don't know, give any advice that they think might help you.
Where I go, absolutely. They're the best professors I've ever had, and that's not being biased or an exaggeration, that's just the truth. They are right there with you every step of the way. If they notice that someone's struggling through an exam, they are much quicker to say that they messed up in making the exam than saying that you did something wrong in studying or preparing for the exam. If you go to them in their office, you could sit in their office and cry and be like, I don't know if I can do this, and they will encourage you like they're your parent to say, you can do this, one test doesn't define you, a group of tests doesn't define you, you're here for a reason. Pick yourself up, let's figure out where the pieces fell through, and let's put the puzzle back together and keep it moving. And I think that's such an amazing thing, because this program, and I assume many other DPT programs, are meant to break you down a little bit and challenge you and see what you're made of. And the fact that they do that, as well as realize that you're still human and remember what it was like to be there themselves and support you as if they're supporting a friend and not just a student, is an amazing feeling to know that you have the backing of your professors that way.
Are the faculty helpful and supportive, especially when you are struggling? Definitely. In preparing for quizzes and exams, they've been extremely helpful, and I've done really well on quizzes because of their willingness to help and give me feedback and clarify some of their lectures and their slides. Just their willingness to help, and in addition, their willingness to change the curriculum and the program. This program I've seen has constantly changed their curriculum to try to make it better for the students based on student feedback. So I really appreciate that. Are the faculty helpful and supportive, especially when you are struggling? Faculty are helpful and supportive. They are available when they need to answer your questions. They also understand what you are going through because they have been in your shoes. They are there in person, through email or text. They are there wholeheartedly. The professors especially care about every one of their students from their personal life to school life. They value you enjoying the process through PT school because it is only a phase in our life that we go through. They are supportive and provide guidance during times of struggle and will do their best to help you succeed.
Are the faculty helpful and supportive? Yes, they are very supportive and helpful, and as long as you ask them questions and you take responsibility for your learning, they're there to help.
Yeah, they're helpful and supportive, but they gave me some like tips and good ideas and stuff, but it was more like they emphasized that, hey, this is all on you, like we can't do the work for you, you just have to like sit down and hammer it out, grind it out, and learn it yourself, and then come to class prepared for your exams and make sure you do well on them. We can't really just drag you through this, you have to push yourself through it.
Who would I recommend a career in PT to and why? I would like to say anyone that's passionate about the body and figuring out ways to make someone feel better, to alleviate pain. Like if you see someone in pain or you see someone that you know you can impact their life for the better, I say PT is a great way to do that. It's a very hands-on profession where you practice things like therapeutic alliance and you just engage with someone and get to know them more than just a surface level. And I feel like in this healthcare profession, you get that opportunity more than maybe others, where you can really connect with your patients and get to know them more than just a name on the chart. I'll definitely recommend PT to anyone who feels like they can impact people's lives like that. And yeah, if you're passionate about sports or geriatrics, peds, little kids, like there's so many broad fields in PT, so you really can't go wrong. Like if you get bored with one area, you can always hop onto another. So yeah, that's why I chose PT, and that's why it's the best profession in the world in my eyes.
If someone, like the person I was 10 years ago came up to me and said, like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what profession I would like, I don't know what career I would like, and then I maybe ask them a couple of things that they're interested in or things that they want to do, if they told me, one, they want to help people, I think that's huge. Two, they're interested in, learning how to physically help people move better, help people walk better. And three, then they themselves are interested in learning about biomechanics and movement in the human body. I would definitely recommend physical therapy for someone like that. But it doesn't have to be just to that person. It could be anyone who's interested in it and wants to help people.
As cliche as it sounds, anyone who loves to help people, but more than that, someone who was just willing to go deeper in their relationships with a medical patient. As I was saying before, PT is kind of underrated in the impact that we have in people's lives. We can affect them mentally, emotionally, physically, all the above, in a negative or a positive way. And I think one of the biggest things I've learned from going through labs and shadowing other PTs and just learning from my professors in general is that we don't think about how much of an impact and an effect we have every second that we're with that patient, and all the different things we have to think about when we're with that patient. It's not just the physical therapy aspect, it's like how we talk to them, our body language with them, are we getting to know them as an individual person and not just a medical diagnosis. All of these things play into their recovery, because if someone doesn't believe that they can get better, no matter how good of a PT recommendation you give or how good your exercise program is, they're not going to improve because they don't believe it's real and they don't believe you care about them. And so to me, if you really want to make an impact in someone's life and still have that medical aspect to it, and you love exercise and you love helping people holistically, not just physically, I think physical therapy is the job for you for sure.
First off, someone like me, right? Someone who wants to help people, who enjoys spending time with people. Like I said before, I found that I was really interested in the human body and ANP1. If you found the classes ANP1 and kinesiology to be really interesting to you, and understanding how these different movements in the body work and what they're composed of, definitely consider PT. Half of my classmates are athletes who have injured themselves in some way in the past and have gone through PT rehab, and that includes myself. So if that's something that you have gone through and you've actually experienced firsthand healing through exercise, then PT might be something that interests you as well. If you're someone who isn't a fan of being diagnosed medication for everything, if you believe in healing through strengthening your own body, in the PT world you hear a lot of these two quotes. You hear improvement through movement and motion is lotion. If that's something that you relate with in some way, then I would definitely consider PT. But you don't have to just be an athlete or be interested in sports to want to do PT. All the specialties that exist is a sponge cow, SPONGECOW. So S is for sports, P is for pediatrics, so working with kids, O is for orthopedics, N is for neuro, so that includes like Parkinson's patients, cerebral palsy patients, stroke patients. G is for geriatrics, so working with the elderly. E is electrocardio. C is cardiovascular and pulmonary, so heart and lungs. They'll study in more detail. O is oncology, so cancer, right? And then W is for women's health. So if any of those areas interest you and you want to like study that in further detail, you don't have to. There are definitely a number of PTs that decide to just start working right after their 3 years in PT school. But if any of those areas interest you, plus what I mentioned before about, just having an interest in the human body, believing in health and healing through strengthening and movement, then maybe PT is something for you to consider.
I think anybody who really likes exercise would really enjoy physical therapy. You definitely have to have the discipline and the work-mindedness to be able to get through the schooling. But if you really enjoy exercise, it's a great translation over to therapeutic exercise and just being able to understand how the body works, and it just gives you a good foothold to already go on as you're going into PT school.
So I would recommend a PT career to anybody who loves physical activity, anybody who loves working with people, because you are definitely going to be spending one-on-one time with your patients and making sure that they're getting everything done. I definitely recommend it to somebody who's patient, because you won't get immediate results a lot of the times. And yeah, just anybody who loves sports, loves people, and loves helping people.
PT is a dynamic field, and we work with people of all walks of life. Individuals that are selfless, empathetic, committed, hardworking, team players, non-judgmental, and the listener are those that I would recommend. This is because when a patient or individual comes into PT, they are at their most vulnerable state, that they wish they were never in. You need qualities that allow you to bring yourself to their level. You need to be able to stand in their shoes, feel what they may be going through, be encouraging that everything is going to be okay, being present to listen to what they truly care about, and reminding them that you will be with them through this journey in life. Individuals that can display some of these qualities can consider a career in PT, because PT is more than just about exercising someone, but rather building rapport with the person in front of you.
I would recommend anyone who, first and foremost, wants to help people, who have great personal, social skills, and you like working with your hands, and you don't necessarily have to study kinesiology or exercise science per se in undergrad, but as long as you are interested in how the human body works and how you can empower someone to use their own body to heal themselves, and through movement and exercise and promoting healthy living, whether that's through nutrition, movement, etc. By all means, if you're interested, go shadow someone, talk to a PT student if that's what you're interested in. Go talk to PT programs and just get a feel for what they represent, and just to pique your interest to see if that's something you would like to pursue. So, thank you.